Hello. How is everybody today? Are you getting excited for today and for Limitless? Hello. How is everybody today? Okay, I think I figured that out. I had YouTube checking to make sure all the links are working. Can you give a hi in the chat? This is our first time using this type of streaming platform, so I want to make sure that you guys are there. Hey, Sophie. I see Melissa. I want to make sure everything worked for you. I know a few of the other speakers wanted to be waiting on the sidelines too, and I'm not seeing them. So I just want to make sure everything is working before we get rocking and rolling. And if maybe you could send me the link that worked best for you to be there, that would be fabulous, just in case somebody's having a little bit of difficulties. I'm so excited you joined us, Sophie. Hello, hello. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, to all my Canadians. Today is usually Turkey Day, but our family ended up getting a bit sick, so we didn't want to go see any family and pass anything on. And also, happy Columbus Day for the Americans. I'd love to know in the chat what Columbus Day is exactly. Okay. Melissa, if you can hear me. Hi, Melissa. If you could just send me the link that you got to log into there, just send in this chat. That would be so helpful. Yeah, as you can tell, we're just going through our morning, like make sure all the things are working before we get going. Thank you, Melissa. Do you see that, Sarah? Hopefully this helps you. So I guess I'll start by introducing myself. I guess that's a good way to start. My name is Jeanine Hauck, and I get to be your host today. I'm a coach, an entrepreneur. I'm a wife, a mom of 3 little ones, ranging from the age of 1 to 5 years old. So they keep me quite busy with a very of everything. I've made it my goal to help women get out of their old ways of thinking so they can show up every day as their most authentic version of themselves and their most successful version of themselves. And so that's why the idea of this event, Limitless, was so important to me. I was coming up with my next group coaching program, Ignite, and it's all about getting these limits gone. And I've realized how much of a large role it's playing in everybody's life. Oh, we're just figuring out some things in the chat. I can see you here, Melissa. I'm not sure why the chat maybe isn't letting you. Sophie, would you know why the speakers on the side can't chat in the chat? Sophie is so wonderful to have here. But yeah, today we're really going to dig deep, and this is something that's helped me so much, is practicing every day and looking into what are those blocks going in the back of your life that's actually running how things are happening. Hello, hello. So good to see you. Okay, Sophie's saying the same link we're on and just comment in there. Does that help you at all, Melissa? Apologize for these technical difficulties in the beginning, but I so rather get through them in the beginning than later on. So one of the thoughts that I had the other day, which I think was so relevant here, I had one of those wonderful days, where everything went right. And it kind of sparked the idea of, um, okay. And it kind of sparked the idea, if we know how to have these wonderful days, why aren't we having them all the time? And one of the things that comes to mind most is easy example would be like a weight loss journey. You start eating really healthy that first week or two, you are feeling amazing. You are noticing some results and everything's going really well. And then we decide that we turn to eating the food, or we turn to we stop going on that. Even though we're getting the results, we have super high energy, everything is going great. So why would we change that? And that's where the unconscious blocks in the back of our heads are happening and going on. So a lot of the times the thoughts could be, I can't afford to eat like this or maintain this for a long period of time. I don't have time to do this. It could be, nobody else in my family has had success with this, so why would I? And that's one of those examples of ones where you're living on other people's thoughts and other people's limits. And that's what we get to break through. And one of the most fun thoughts that I think that go in the back of your mind is, well, you've been eating so good for the week or two, you're having great results, and then you start justifying it like, maybe the results weren't from this. Maybe it just happened to be a good week. Maybe it's not because of all the effort I've just put in. Maybe, and then we justify. And those are the thoughts that are changing our course of success. And so that's the stuff that we really want to shine a light on and really get aware with. And so we get to do that with each of the speakers today. We have 5 fabulous speakers today, and they're each covering a different area. And so I know if every area doesn't affect you, there's definitely going to be a couple that do, because we cover things such as love, money, setting those big goals, living your life authentically to yourself, and all of these things that are going to impact you so much. So we're just going to take a minute to kind of get the speakers all lined up so we can get everyone going. I would love to hear in the chat, what topics are you most excited to hear about today? Hi, Sue. Hi, Sarah. Sarah, I'm not seeing you here to let you in on the or let your video in. So if you can click on that link that Melissa sent you. Procrastination, Sue. I love that so much. I think that's a very common one. We really try to slow ourselves down, and often procrastination comes in the form of doing too many things and all of the things. And it's really funny. We try to procrastinate by doing more things. Sarah, I wonder if that link isn't working for you. I'm just going to post the link here. If you could hop in and we will get going. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I'm with you, Sophie. Oh, Sophie Riley. Sophie. I think, yeah, hearing other people's stories, it makes it feel like where we are is so relatable. And it's not just you going through it. And this is one of those topics where everybody gets to go through. So we get to hop on. Sarah, I'm just going to let you in here. We're going to hop on with... You just got to make sure your YouTube is silent. I made that mistake when I hopped on too. So, oh, can you try talking, see if it still does that?
Can you hear me?
So do you have any other video of us going on right now? In any other link? Do you have that other restream possibly going? Is it good now?
I don't know.
Okay. So I know it's something on your end, because when I mute yours, it stops. This is the fun of doing a live workshop. Okay, were you able to close the YouTube, and is it working for you now? We'll test it.
I just closed it. So oh, does that work?
Yes, yeah, that's what it was. It was just that you're getting the back and forth from you on both ends.
Yeah, so it was on mute, but I won't be able to publicly chat then.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Is it a weird full moon or something? I think all the technology is going a little wiry today. So we'll just jump into things. Today, first speaker today, we have Sara Mayer, and she is the founder of Sara Mayer Consulting. Her team provides done-for-you services for business and nonprofit leaders looking to save time on operational and sales tasks. And honestly, who couldn't use a little bit more of that? Sara is the host of the Bold Goal Crusher podcast and book club, where she teaches listeners to crush bold goals and everything that gets in the way. So, who could be a better person to start this limitless journey with than Sara? Thank you so much for joining us today, Sara.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I'm so excited today to be talking about my favorite topic, which is how to set and crush bold goals. So I know many of you have thought about goals for the year, and we are coming up on the beginning of a new year. And so you may be thinking about the goals that you set last year or some goals that you want to set for the new year. So I think this topic is so relevant to the topic of being limitless. We have been taught for many, many years how to set goals. And some people have set what are called SMART goals. Anyone followed the SMART goal format? I know I did that for several years, but I'm here to tell you that SMART goals simply don't work. I know you may be thinking, what? Yes, SMART goals don't work. And the reason I say that is the big things, the really bold goals that you want to achieve in your life simply can't be put in a SMART format from the beginning. So go with me for a little bit. Think about that thing, the really big thing, not the, hey, I want to make sure all the kids' laundry is done on time or anything like that. Think about that really big goal in your life that you want to achieve. Maybe it's creating your own homestead where you grow your own vegetables. I want to have horses and goats and all these things on my property. That's a huge goal that I cannot simply attack in 1 year. And what happens when we have these big goals, the things that we really want, that we sit and dream about, when we try and pack them into a SMART goal, we start to think about, okay, when can I realistically get this done? When can I do this by this deadline and this? And then it sucks all the life out of the goal. Well, is even having a property with goats and horses realistic? I don't even know how to do that. I've never owned a goat. How do I take care of a goat? All those things, when we try and cram it into a smart format, they get thrown out because they're really not realistic. And maybe it's really not smart to have all these things. So I encourage you, as you start to think about your goals for next year, or think about the goals you set in the past, to really take a look at those goals and ask yourself, did I suck the life out of the goal by trying to put it in a format that doesn't work? Is this really bold enough? Is this really the goal? Am I really excited about this goal? Or is it a goal that I maybe just need to toss away? Or is it simply something that is just a to do that can be on my to do list? When you start with those big dreams and put everything into it without putting structure around your goals, you will get more excited about your goals. But the other thing will happen, it'll become more difficult to accomplish, because when it's really what you want to achieve, it's not going to be easy. Sometimes you might not even know where to start. There are many goals that I've put on my list, and I didn't even know the first thing about that. The goats, for example, I know nothing about tending to goats, but I know someday I am going to have a couple goats on my property. So, how do high achievers really set and crush those goals? This may sound so silly, but the first thing is they track them. So many of us have these big dreams and we have a mile long to do list. We keep track of every little thing on our to do list, but the important things, the big, bold goals, are nowhere to be found. They're not written down, they're in our head. I'll get to that someday. Have you ever done that? I know I did that in the past. So I encourage you to really start to think about those bold goals and then open up a notebook, open up an Excel spreadsheet if you love Excel, and start to really outline your goals. It sounds so simple, but that's when you can make smart objectives. Set some timelines on when you are going to actually do that first step. The first step may be figure out how to tend to goats or whatever your goal is. Watch some YouTube videos on it, whatever it is, but put timelines around those steps, not the big bold goal, but around those steps so that keeps your momentum going forward. Step 2, I know this one is going to be tricky. When you sit down on Monday or whenever you schedule your week, you need to schedule time to work on your goals first. Remember, your big, bold goals sometimes are scary. You don't know how to start. So, what happens is we tend to jump into our calendar and say, what's the easiest thing that I can do to cross some things off my list? So, step 2 is to schedule time into your calendar to work on your goals. Even if you're only sitting at your computer, twiddling your thumbs, trying to figure out how the heck you get started, you are going to do that for that hour, because life will get in the way. And we, as a society, we are chasing this productivity high. That's what I like to call it, the productivity high. We want to feel productive. So at the end of the day, if we sat at our computer and just thought about our goals and didn't make any progress, we would feel like we didn't accomplish anything. So we would quickly create a to-do list and check things off, the easy things, to feel productive. But in reality, when you sit and think about your goals, even if you don't do a single thing, you are moving your goal forward and you are productive. So your goals should be the first thing in your calendar every week. I always like to tell the little short story. I have friends who give out jobs, and we had decided we wanted to start a nonprofit. And one of my friends was like, I'll do social media. I'll do this fun logo. I'll do this. Yeah. Well, I got the job she assigned me to fill out the IRS paperwork. If anyone's rolling their eyes right now and saying, I would never want that job, yeah, it's 176 pages of very complicated IRS questions. But we all wanted to start this nonprofit. And so every week I'd put it on my to-do list, I'd open it up, and I'd get to question 2. And it was the address for the organization. And I'd get stuck. I'd say, well, do we need to have a business address? Do I need to get a P.O. box? Do I use my address? I didn't even know where to go, let alone the rest of the 175 pages. So that got moved back and back and back on my to-do list. And finally, I said, I'm just going to put this on my calendar and I'll work on it 2 hours a week. The first 6 months, yes, you heard me, 6 months, I just sat there looking at these questions, totally like not even knowing how to start. And then finally I said, I'm going to find somebody who's done this paperwork before, and I'm going to ask them all the questions. That was step 1 on my goal. And I gave myself a deadline of by next week, I would have spoken with one person and asked them all the questions. So when you schedule time on your calendar first in your schedule to work on your goals, you will be able to achieve them much more quickly than when you just say, someday I will have this. Now, what the funny part is, people pay me to fill out this paperwork now as a consultant, and I can do it in a half hour. So now I'm an expert in that area because I sat at my desk and just really thought about how I was going to achieve this and who could help me. The third tip, sorry, can't count. Third tip, you need to say no to things that are not aligned with your goals. Opportunities come our way all the time. And there are many things that are in line with our goals that we're working on, and we can say yes and get excited about and jump into. But many things simply are a no. And if you have any struggles with saying no, I know I did. I stopped saying no a couple of years ago because it felt icky. I was like, oh, I don't want to say no. What if they don't ask me again? I stopped saying no and I started saying, thank you so much for thinking of me. This is such a great opportunity. Do you know who would be really good for this? Let me connect you. I couldn't say no because it felt bad. I felt bad saying no. But when I started connecting other people to opportunities, things changed. People still think of me for things, and I'm able to really choose the opportunities, but I'm also giving opportunities to others that maybe never would have been a person that person would have been connected to or thought of. And then I'm able to mentor and help them to really achieve their goals and to really become who they want to be. Some of them have become clients, which is great. So I no longer say no. If you can say no, or become a connector when people start to ask you for things. All right. Tip number 4. So many times, beginning of the week, Monday, today's a Monday, prime example. And we are motivated naturally on Mondays. So I don't know about you, but I like to write a list, all the things that I think I want to accomplish this week. But in reality, we can only accomplish 3 things a day. Yep, 3 things a day. When we add in email, eating, habits, all the other things, really in our schedule, we only have time for 3 things. So I encourage you to pick your top 3 every day and then block those into your calendar. My suggestion for your top 3 is to plug one in first thing in the morning, right after you get to work, or if you're working from home. Don't check your email first, but plug that big thing in. Put one in the middle of the day, and then add one to the very last thing you do in the day. Why the last thing? People ask me this all the time. Okay, the last thing, the reason why you want to put it as the last thing is because then you can set an unofficial deadline for yourself and say, as soon as I finish this very important thing, one of my top 3 things, I get to go home or shut my laptop for the night. And then you do have to honor that. But I put it in at like 4 o'clock because typically I like to be done working at 5. And I say, okay, how quickly can I get this done and still do it well without distraction? And then I do it. And if I get it done in a half hour, then I go home. If it's 45 minutes, I go home. If it takes me an hour and a half, unfortunately, I'm staying late, but I end my day having accomplished all 3 things and they're on my schedule. And it also sets myself up for knowing that muscle of knowing that I can do hard things. So, in your calendar, you want to schedule your top 3 things you need to do for that day. You probably already have your goal scheduled into that day or maybe another day during the week. That's the easiest way to ensure that life doesn't get in the way of us achieving our goals and that we are really focused on the most important priorities we feel accomplished at the end of the day, and then we can fit life in. And I'm going to give you one more bonus tip. Tip 5, it's an acronym, OHIO. If anyone has ever heard it, it's only handle it once. So, Ohio, only handle it once. So many times we look at something, maybe it's an email. I had a guy who used to work for me, his name was Bob, and he got in the office at 6 in the morning. And I used to look at his email as soon as I got up. And then I would say, I invited Bob into my bathroom, my kitchen, my car ride to work because I'd be thinking about this spreadsheet the whole time. I'd be brushing my teeth, thinking about Bob and his spreadsheet. And so I had really invited Bob into my life in my morning, and I stopped checking email. So if you follow the acronym OHIO, which is only handle it once, I would never check my email in the morning because I'm not able to handle that right then. So when I got into work, I started checking my email first thing when I got into work. I later moved that to later. And I would only handle things once. If Bob was asking me for a spreadsheet and I can do it in 5 minutes or less, I do it right then. If he if he asked me for a spreadsheet and it's super complicated, I put it on my calendar as a task and I tell Bob, hey, I'll get to that on Thursday. But so often we get in our email, we're sitting in the doctor's office, we're scrolling, we're watching TV, we see things, and we don't have the ability to act on them. So when we handle things more than once, they clog up our head, they take up our focus because then we forget about it and we say, oh, I need to get that spreadsheet to Bob because I didn't process it right away. So if you move to the bonus tip of only handling things once, you would see the spreadsheet. You would either do it right then in 5 minutes or less, or you would schedule it and you wouldn't have to worry about it again. Those are my 5 tips, 1 bonus, well, 4 tips and 1 bonus for how to truly bring your goals to life. Because what's important in life will get pushed further and further down the line because life will just take over. The dry cleaning, the laundry, the school pickup, all those things that have to happen will come into your life. And those goals that are difficult, that maybe aren't easy, but are so important. And at the end of our life, we're like, ooh, I really wanted to do this, but I couldn't find time because I was cleaning my oven 4 times a week, avoiding the things that maybe I didn't know how to do. You will regret that. So, really think about how to set those bold goals and then not let life get in the way with those tips. Thank you. That's all I have. And then I have some Q&A, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. I love that. And I love how you make them so easy and simple and achievable. Like it's very clear steps to give us to do. So we have such a unique opportunity. We're actually going to open a Q&A session for like the next 10 minutes or so. So you guys have the opportunity to throw any questions into the chat, any feedback you have, any experiences you want to share. Throw that all in the chat, and Sara is here to share her expertise. I know I have a question. You had mentioned at the beginning that SMART goals don't work. I hadn't heard of SMART goals before. So what is that exactly?
Yeah, so SMART goals have been a format that people have put out there that you have to have them realistic, they need to be measurable, and it's a format that really structures your goals. So it'll be like, I will achieve this by X day by this.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found with SMART goals is that we have these big dreams, and you'll say, I'll ask you what you want to do, and my clients will light up and they'll be talking about all these really cool things. And then they'll say, but it's not really realistic, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know how I could accomplish that. Or because of New Year's resolutions, people think they need to accomplish it in a year. So they'll say, well, there's no way I could do that this year. Well, that's
Mm-hmm.
a, arbitrary deadline that's not like set in stone. And so I really like to help my clients really dream big. Like, okay, you want goats, you want horses, you want this, like write it all down rather than trying to limit it or put things on it. Or they'll tell their friends. I also encourage people not to share their really wild goals with people, because people start to think about, well, how will you do that? You don't even own a piece of land. Like, you don't know anything about this. You want to grow sunflowers? Do you know that you live in a desert? Like, and then it's like, oh well, maybe I really don't want to do that. And so when it's really important to you, share your goals with a select few group of people that you know will really cheerlead you on, and say, hey, how can we figure out how to grow sunflowers in the desert, for example. um,
Yeah, and I think that's as soon as you give your goals or say it to somebody else, other people want to give their opinion. Sometimes it's out of love, but more often than not, their opinion and their advice is being colored by their life experience. So maybe they wouldn't be able to grow sunflowers in the desert, but that doesn't mean that's true for you.
yep, exactly.
One of the people in the chat is saying that they actually use SMART goals in 4-H a lot.
Hmm.
So this might be a great opportunity to be, because 4-H is so much for the kids. So if you can take some of Sara's ways of breaking it down and making it achievable, if we can get that in our kids now,
Yep.
that would be huge.
Yeah, and really the goal or the dream should be limitless. You can add to it, you can take things away. Yes, you need to have steps. Like, you can't just say, well, I'll achieve that someday. The steps, that's really where you want to assign the deadline. I will
Mhm.
research this by this day. I will learn how to grow sunflowers in the desert by this day. I'll figure out if that's possible. But the big goal, really, in order for it to be what you truly want, needs to be limitless.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think, I mean, what an appropriate name for this event. I think each of the speakers will be speaking so much into that, that it's not about creating attainable goals. Because
Mhm.
if we set the bar with what we're able to handle now and what seems in our grasp now, then that's not leaving you that room for growth.
Yeah. Well, an example, I worked with a client who I loved, and I asked her for her first goal, her goals. And her goals were to make sure that the house was clean every week. And yes, did she was able to attain that? Was it easy? But when I
Mhm.
really talked to her at the end of her life, she wasn't like, I just hope my house is clean every week. She had so many more aspirations, but she had taken what her value for having a clean house was: orderly and a place that people felt home. And that's why she wanted her house clean. So when we expanded her goal, we really found that she had some very big parenting goals of the life she wanted her children to experience and the parent she wanted to be. That was the goal. One of the steps was cleaning the house.
That's interesting. We don't really realize what place we're coming from a lot of the times, because for us, that's the whole picture. So it's really great to have someone in your corner who can kind of help you dig deeper and go deeper.
Yeah.
Sophie, I'm going to pull up her question here. She would love to know if there's a planner you recommend or that you personally love.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have tried almost every planner, and in reality, I actually have created planners as well. And I think in reality, I like well, actually three things. So this may seem complicated. I use the Clever Fox planner, if you've ever heard of that one. And that is where I'm able to take my goals and put it into my day. I do like a paper planner, but I have a notebook where I track my goals in. So that's where I have all my notes and my dreams, my couple steps outlined, and anything that has to do with my goals, I put into an individual notebook. So right now I have three goals. I have three separate goal notebooks. It's just a uh, plain black notebook. You can choose whatever. It's just lined. And then each week I take my goal steps and put them into my planner on the timeline. And I like this approach because it helps me to really think about my goals. But at the end of achieving that goal, I have a big history, like that nonprofit we founded. I have a history of all the steps that it took to actually accomplish founding that nonprofit, and I can look back. Some of my clients, I've helped them through goals that were very complicated, and one of my clients has a notebook that is 600 steps that it took for her to accomplish her goal. Now, if she had known all those steps at the beginning, she never would have started. But at the end, she was like, "Did you know that that actually took 600 steps?" So the planner I use is Clever Fox. I saw somebody ask in here. This is the planner, it has a little fox on the front, and that's the one I use. And then I also have, and I do I do encourage people to have a separate task list where they just write everything they need to do, whether it's goal related or not, like do the laundry, whatever you have, respond to Bob's spreadsheet, so that that's a way to organize your tasks. So I have a running task list that then I'll pull out three or four things I can do, put it on my planner when I'm doing it, look at my goals and put them in there. So I use three different things. That's what's worked for me. Some people use a goals spreadsheet.
One of the people were saying, like, she started a business from home. She does homeschool with her kids and runs them around. Her time restraints are a huge struggle. She likes the one touch rule. How does she set an attainable timeline each day for what she really wants to get done?
Yeah, I hear this so much from moms, and also dads as well. I have a couple of clients who left their 9 to 5 to have freedom, and then they built a business where they have no freedom. And so the biggest thing is to really think about your day and what is realistic. And sometimes you have to let things go or outsource them if there are any things you can outsource. And some people say, "Oh, well, I can only outsource my business stuff." That's not true. I have a lady who outsources handwritten cards. Somebody she loves writing handwritten cards, and then she had children and she's like, "I can't do that anymore."
Mhm.
And she pays a lady who loves doing it, an older lady who loves writing handwritten cards, and then she just signs them. So you can outsource almost anything, find somebody who loves to do that. So it's really about being realistic of what can be in your schedule and then blocking your time. If you get sucked into email a lot, I suggest you do one block of time for email. You figure out how many blocks you need based on how many emails you get per day, and then say, like, I know it takes me an hour and a half to get through my email every day, so that's, I have an hour and a half on my schedule. I only handle it once. If I was sitting in the carpool line, I would not scroll email. I would find something that maybe I want to meditate every day, do that in the carpool line, so that way you're actually accomplishing something on your schedule. Another pro tip for parents, if you are have a spouse, you do not need to have your morning routines commingled. So, a lot of spouses think that they have to wake up, take care of the kids together, do this whole morning thing together. And some people need alone time. Some people want to read for their morning routine. So my big suggestion with that is say, you get the kids for the first hour. I'm going to do my morning routine. And then I'll take them for the next hour so you can do your morning routine and figure out what that is.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's such a nice note to finish off because I think we do need to fill our cups and like also question what works for us because how parenting is done for everyone or how you work for everyone isn't the same. So it's nice to be able to get creative and open up to new ideas and new ways of hitting your success and your happiest, fullest life.
Yep.
So I want to say thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing such wonderful tips that are going to be so attainable.
Yes, for sure. Happy to help. You can feel free to reach out to me. And remember, life is a journey, it's a work in progress. Your schedule can flex. You don't need to, be so rigid that you can't just take a day off and watch Netflix.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
That was so wonderful. And I know our next speaker is just as excited to share all of her wonderful knowledge. We get to welcome Melissa Ternes.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good, and I'm excited to be here and loved Sarah's. I'm like, yes, finally someone is saying smart goals don't work. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I was seeing you were taking notes just like me.
I had my whole list of notes. I was like, oh, that was good. That was good.
Oh, I love that so much. So, to tell you guys a little bit about Melissa, she believes money touches every area of your life. So, it's important to identify what's blocking your profits. So, cleaning up your relationship with money has a domino effect. It improves all aspects of your life. And Melissa Ternes is a wealth and money coach, a speaker, an author, and a CEO of Master Your Money Now. She's discovered that the key to unblocking your profits through training and her own financial journey as a business owner. Her clients grow their businesses, increase profits, expand wealth through Melissa's unique approach of blending the science of behavior, emotions, and understanding their own personal history with money and practical strategies. This is the approach that she is sharing with us today. So let's just sit back and be ready to start having fun with money. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing this with us today, Melissa.
Yes, I'm excited to be here, and it's so funny because I'm like, I'll talk about money anytime, all the time, and then people are like, "Do you talk about anything else?" I'm like, "No, because it touches everything. It's the perfect thing. It touches everything." So
This
yeah,
is so,
glad
yeah,
to be
so
here.
true. And I'm going to pass the reins over to you because I know you can talk about it and I can't wait to learn.
Thank you, thank you. So there. I was like, oh, I disappeared. So I want to talk to you today about 3 aspects of hidden money blocks. So there's how your brain impacts your money. There's how family loyalty patterns impact your money. And then there how big and little traumas really come in and are part of that hidden money block. So feel free to drop stuff in the chat if you have questions as we're going along. And I just really want to dive right in and say, how many of us like me, I'm like, I'm smart. And that's kind of how I ran my life was, but I'm smart and I can't figure out why this isn't working, but I'm smart and I can't figure out why this isn't working. And what I realized is that our brain is here to keep us safe. And safe doesn't always mean what we want it to mean. So when we look at money, and everything in life takes money, whether it's Sarah's goats and the sunflowers, the farm, like all of that, whatever it is, whatever you want, it takes money. So now we've got this money as part of having the life that we want to have. Perfect. And when we look at it and say, okay, what's going on in my brain? They teach us to go to school, right? And then you teach all your kids, go to school, get good grades, do these things. So what's going on in your brain is your brain, kind of has 2 main parts. Like there's the part that is the mammalian brain and the reptile brain, which I call your critter brain. And then, there's all this part up front that is kind of like your intelligence brain. And when we look at it and what's going on, primary of your brain is to keep you safe. So anytime you go into fight, flight, freeze, and now they've added fawn, anytime you go into one of those states, your brain goes back to just critter brain. Safety first, I need quantity of life. Safety first, quantity of life. Safety first, quantity of life. And it doesn't get out of that pattern to say, yeah, but if I did some of that planning that Sara was talking about, I could have quantity of life. And so anytime we get into a situation that puts us into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, the whole prefrontal cortex goes offline. They've done brain scans on this. Absolutely fascinating. So we have no access to this part of our brain that says quality of life. So that's where we start to look and see when we have that pattern of saying, I wasn't going to do that again. I wasn't going to do that again. I wasn't going to do that again. And I think in the beginning, Jeanine was talking about like weight loss. Like, I wasn't going to do that again. I wasn't going to do that again. But what happens is we get into this panic point, and in that panic point, all of this is going offline, and all we have is what we've done before. So that's why we see repeating patterns over and over and over again. And we get in this place where it's like, whatever you've been doing with your money keeps going with your money until you allow your brain to see something else can be safe. So it's one of those things when they say spend less and save more. It's like, yes, that works in theory, right? Intellectually, that works up here in our brain. But back here, what works is I've done it before and I made it out alive. So when we start to look at how do you change patterns that you have with money to get a different result, right? To get that goal that Sara was talking about, to change those, we have to learn to regulate our nervous system to keep us in a place where we can bring ourselves out of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And that's part of the stuff that nobody's talking about around money. They're just not talking about it. So when we start to look at how your brain is like patterning you to keep repeating things, when we learn to regulate our central nervous system, that's where we can begin to have some different responses and we can put in some new patterns. Absolutely fascinating. Now, the next thing that I want to talk to you about is this place of family loyalties. So everybody has a family, whether they're around, not around, whether they're adopted, whether they're biological, whether they're like the ones that we pick up, but everybody has a family in some way, shape, or form. May be intact, may not be intact. But when we start to look at what happens in family loyalty patterns and money, we repeat these cycles, right? What we learn as children and grow through is how our parents did money. So it could be that your parents struggled with money and you find yourself struggling with money. It could be that your parents had patterns of like feast and famine. They may have been an entrepreneur, like a home builder. And, we build the house, we sell the house, there's lots of money. And then we're back down and we're building another house. There's not much money, not much money, not much money. Oh, we sell the house, lots of money. So it could be this feast and famine pattern that you see coming up. It could be that, there were job loss or evictions or foreclosures, and you see yourself again repeating that pattern. And what's really going on there is this place of belonging, right? If we look at the things that we do to belong, right? Whether it is belonging with our children, whether it is belonging with our partners, whether it's belonging in our friendship circles or belonging in our family, there are lots of things that when we look at belonging will make us do things that we're like, I would never do that. But again, when we look at how important it is to belong and to be part of a unit, all of that brain patterning then comes back and makes a lot of sense. So perhaps you're able to make this amount of money, and that's the same amount of money that perhaps one of your parents made. But when you make just slightly more than that, you instantly like do something to bring it down. And that may be like you have some, like the air conditioner goes out at the house, or you need a new car or whatever. But like I can make this, but not, like there's this like bumping up against the ceiling. Well, that ceiling could be set from a family loyalty pattern, right? Growing up, my dad is an engineer. He'll always be an engineer. And growing up, the joke was, you can be anything you want to be. What kind of engineer would you like to be? And it was like, well, I don't really want to be an engineer. I would really go into like psychology and sociology and all of that stuff that like, how does the brain work and neuroscience? But the pattern was, what kind of engineer do you want to be? So in order for me to step out of that pattern to do the work that I do, I had to overcome that distance that I was creating by not being an engineer. And that's where people can struggle, in that pulling away and identifying a money engineer. I love it. That's brilliant. I have a new title. I'm a money engineer. I love that. So again, pulling aside and seeing, okay, what's actually going on when I separate, and do I still feel loved in the same way? So this is where we start to look at, what are the decisions we make around money that impact everything, that aren't like, why did I spend X dollars or not spend X dollars? It's all of this other stuff that's running in the background that then begins to pull us in. It begins to like move us into this space of saying, wait, I wanted something and I didn't choose it. Why didn't I choose it? Why is it so hard? Why is it such a struggle? And like Sara said, the big things that you really, really want are going to be scary. So learning this process of regulating that scary in your brain allows you to move through it much faster. Because every time you take that limitlessness, right? And that's what we're all here to talk about today, is being limitless. When you take that limitless, then calming your body systems, your like the physicality of you, so that you can step into those next steps, right? Step into that next step, step into that next step. So understanding how each of these different pieces then relates, because all of these pieces go together. So, it may be that you make plenty, but you're unable to enjoy it, right? You're constantly chasing money because there was never enough money growing up. And that pattern uninterrupted means that you work hard, and you're like, yeah, I'm working 90 hours a week, making lots of money. And you're unfulfilled. No matter what you get, you would never be happy. So this is where we want to start looking at, what are the patterns that are coming up and through the different spaces that you see. And then to step into the third area. Time to disrupt. Yes. The third area is big and little traumas and how they show up in your money. So, everybody has trauma in their life in some form. So I don't want to say that some trauma is big and some is little, and some is this and some is that and some is, but trauma can be something as, quote, small as a passing comment that someone in authority, could be a parent, could be a teacher, made to you. So perhaps, you were little. I have a client who, went in on, career day in like the 6th grade and said, oh, I want to be a bartender, right? This was about the time that the movie Cocktail came out with Tom Cruise, and he was this like really fancy smancy bartender. And she said, I want to be a bartender, right? Her mom was an alcoholic. Makes a lot of sense, right? Family patterning. Oh, if I'm a bartender, then I see mom. It'd be great. All in the family. So that teacher made a passing comment of, that's not a real job. And in that moment, she folded up her thing and put it away. She put her nose in a book. She studied, graduated a year early, went out, conquered the world, had the job, had the thing, had all the stuff, and then realized that she didn't really enjoy it, right? And now she's doing something completely different. But that one passing comment moved her from doing and looking at life as full of possibility into closed up, and you have to have a real job, right? And how many people as entrepreneurs or somebody with a side hustle, that's not a real job. So then all of that is then patterning through your brain. And when you think about how all of those patterns are then prompting you to do or not do, right? Perhaps you have the planner and you write everything in there, but you never get to do any of it. When you look back over like what's stopping you, that's where you can start to see these different pieces of what stops you. And as you see what stopped each of these different pieces, that's when you can make different choices, right? And in this different piece, when we pull back from money and say, okay, what's going on? It's just like when Sarah was talking about, don't tell your big goals to everybody because people will judge you. Well, now if we pull that into what we're talking about here, what happens in the brain is that shows up as a threat. And as soon as that shows up as a threat in your brain, this pattern goes, okay, they judged me. They said you can't do that. And then you trigger this patterning in your brain that begins to shut down and move into safety. So then that goal just kind of gets put on the shelf and you don't ever get to pick it back up, right? So when we start to look at the things that we're told over the course of our lives and how that then shows up in whether we do or don't do the things necessary to move us forward, to either create the business, to, and it doesn't even have to be creating a business. It can just be running your household income. When we start to see how each of these patterns plays in, they're things that stop us. And I know there's just so much in here. Like this is just a lot of information. But when we start to clear out different pieces, we open up the world to possibility. And, traumas of like sexual abuse, something nobody really wants to talk about. People get squirmy in their seat when I start talking about it. But 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men have been sexually abused in some form or fashion. When we pull this into money, it shows up in worth. It shows up in your ability to charge. It shows up in your ability to trust. And if you can't trust, then all this, all the delegate. Well, if you don't trust, you can't delegate. If you don't feel worth, charging more is kind of out of the question. And so we start to look at how each of these patterns layer on top of each other. And they're like, you would think, how is that correlated to this? But when you see how everything is attached, money touches everything. I have a client who, had this whole not good enough going on. And when we cleared that out, she doubled her rates. She made more in the first 4 months of this year than she did all of last year. So in 4 months, she made what she made in 12 months just by clearing out some of these patterns that are running that are related to all of this different stuff. And we don't realize that it's this undercurrent. And the undercurrent is what's keeping us stuck. So in each of these pieces, when we start to really get clear about what's going on, right? Spend less and save more. Intellectually works every time. Theoretically, it works every time. But it is in our ability to do it that the glitch comes. That's where the block is. It's not that it doesn't work. It's our ability to actually do that. And so I would say give yourself lots and lots and lots of grace, because there's all this other stuff going on that no one's talking about. So when we look at the stuff that no one's talking about, and they're just like, just go do it. It's why we are not limitless yet, because we're not looking at what's really underneath all that. And I am so grateful that Jeanine is putting this on and bringing these different messages and all of these different packages, and how each of the speakers today will have, one part to the next part to the next part to the next part, and taking you on a journey that you just wouldn't hear anywhere else. So thank you, Jeanine.
Thank you, Melissa. That was wonderful. I know for me, I found it so interesting about your dad and like the engineering, because that played so close to my heart, because our family are tradespeople and we do stuff with our hands and everybody's a tradesperson. So even the thought of doing something online didn't cross my mind for so long. I went in to be a hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, my plan was I'm going to learn how to do welding and mechanics, and I'm going to be a farmer's wife.
Mm-hmm.
These were my goals until I started realizing I have to do something that I'm going to be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily going to be comfortable for everybody.
Right. And it's in that managing that discomfort of the family,
Mm-hmm.
because lots of times it's, well, who do you think you are? We're a family of tradespeople.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, but this is what lights me up in life. This lights me up more than anything else, right? And that,
I know
Mhm.
for them, it's a safety thing. The thing that comes up is, does that even make you money?
Mhm.
Like, it's like, and it's out of love, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's not always out of judgment. It's out of love of like, okay, I want to make sure they're well off, or they're not going to worry about where they're going to eat next or where they're going to sleep, right? And that's the only way they know how to provide. And that's their way of knowing.
Mhm.
I would love to hear some of the questions that you guys have. I know, like you said, money affects every area of your life, but every area of your life also affects your money flow. So it's
Mhm.
that constant infinity loop. So I'd love to hear like what comes up for people, whether it's the stories or the questions or all of that stuff, because money is such a charged topic.
Mhm. It's the taboo thing that no one really wants to talk about.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I know when you and I first got to talk, I'm like, yes, somebody who wants to talk about money. Like, it's just so juicy.
I know it is. It's absolutely fascinating, and I think, in some of the comments, there was the, is this a real job or not?
Mhm.
Yes, and there's a question in the chat.
So
Magic.
Sarah was wondering, how do you manage this when your partner has a different experience with money? Oh, that's a good one.
It is very, very good, because what happens is then you two of you go at each other when they're different experiences and they're different, like, primary needs. So when you start to look at identifying, this is my experience with money, this is your experience with money, then from there you can see each other in a different light. So I have a couple that I work with, and his primary pattern around money is relational security. Hers is financial stability. And the way that plays out then is, like, he'll buy her wonderful gifts, and all she wants is or financial stability. So she would rather him not spend the money on it. But again, this is like when you start to see the pattern, then you can see if there's anything regarding the family, he is going to go full on, full blown, all in on the family. And meanwhile, she's back there going, we didn't need to spend $300 on that, So like, and then once you can begin to get it out in the open, this is my patterning, this is your patterning, then you can begin having the conversations around patterning. And then when she says to him, I really didn't need that piece of whatever, that piece of jewelry, that piece of furniture, that piece of, like, that new car, she's not attacking him as a person. She's saying my need is greater for financial stability than it is for this material object that makes our family space better. And so then you can have a different dialogue, right? It's not like, you suck, I didn't want that, like, I didn't want that gift, right? Which instantly shuts the other person down. When what she really wanted was the feeling of stability. She would rather have money in a savings account sitting and doing nothing. And he would rather have like all of the things that make family life easier.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you start to understand, here's the underlying pattern that's going with this, and that's identified, you can have conversations from that frame rather than, why'd you spend that money? And everything changes, right? Like with kids, if you know that one kid is like, I want to dress myself, I want to, so he can gift her a deposit slip. That's perfect.
Like,
Right. If you know that one kid likes to dress themselves because they're very creative and the other one just wants to be told what to do. Well, if you tell the one that wants to be creative what to do, you're going to have a fight. Right.
mm-hmm.
If you tell the one that like wants to be told what to do, oh, just pick whatever. They're like, I don't know what to pick. And you have a meltdown. Right. So it's working within the framework of what's actually going on.
Yeah, I find it so fascinating. Like we're talking about money, but you're touching on love languages so much.
Mm-hmm.
And like he was showing love
Mm-hmm.
by buying the things. That was his way. He likes, usually you do what you like to receive. So
Right?
he likes to have things for love. And hers is totally different. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, it's nice when you can open that conversation when it's not already heated.
Right.
In that safe, separate place. Because we like to talk about these things when we're already upset about it,
Mm-hmm.
rather
Right.
than in a safe conversation.
Let me just put a little more gasoline on that dynamite that's getting ready to blow up.
What?
And when we think about it, the ability to have a conversation saying, what I know is that you really love our family and you want my life to be easier around family. You know, like you want to bring in someone that's going to help manage, like you want to bring in essentially a family manager.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like who wouldn't want that? But higher on her priority list is that financial security. And so it's just a matter of like looking at those two things and then being able to laugh about it. Because I say if we can laugh about it, we can change it.
Mm-hmm.
Like and from the place of laughter, right? I mean, how much stuff do we do with money that is just crazy? Right? And we're all like, well, yes, just last week, right?
Yeah.
And so when we can laugh about it, it takes the sting out of it and it makes it like it literally changes our physiology in our body.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that physiological change, then we can have a different set of conversations.
Yeah. And I know we're getting close to the end of this, but I wanted to bring up because this is what I find when I talk about it to anybody about money and like what they're doing with money and how they're playing with it and all of that. They're too scared to ask the questions because they don't want to come off dumb. Because
Mhm.
there's a lot of terms and a lot of things that we just don't know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say? Because I mean, we have this fear of being seen and being seen as dumb. What do you
Mm-hmm.
do?
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing to know in that is it's not your fault.
Mm.
Right? Number one, it is not your fault. And I tell that to people. I don't care what you've done with money, it's not your fault. But it is your responsibility now to pick it up, Google it, figure it out, ask the questions. Because when we look at, especially here in the United States, I don't know how it is in Canada, there is zero financial education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you go all through school, you get no financial education, and then it's like, oh, good luck. Go off to college, figure it out. Go get a job, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't talk about it, which makes it even more like, oh, it's something I should have already known.
Yeah.
Right. And so the way to kind of begin that process, if you have children, start talking about it with your kids. If you
Mhm.
have, friends, like, hey, this is the thing. And it makes me feel really kind of like, I don't know. Can we talk about that? Right? Because I promise you, they don't know either. Right? They just are not talking about it.
Yeah.
right? And I think that's the place of somebody has to open the door and step in.
Mm-hmm.
And when you realize, like, first, I don't do investing. My whole side of money is, like, what's going on, like, with you and money. It has nothing to do with investing. So people start talking about investing, and I'm like, I have a person who does that. Like, I know enough about it to know my part that I need to know. And then I have somebody else who specializes in that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when we think about money, there are people that specialize in nothing but investments or nothing but life insurance or nothing but this particular part.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. So she has no financial education at all, which I think a lot of us relate to.
Mhm.
And so how is she supposed to teach her kids?
Mhm. So it becomes this place of, what's the thing that you wish your parents would have taught you, right? And it can be as simple as that, because depending on where you go to get information about, like, financial education, you're going to get one side or the other. So what I would say is start with, wow, when you first were out on your own, what did you wish you had known?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be something as simple as, here's a checking account and here's how to balance it.
Mm-hmm.
So for children, if we start looking at giving them chunks of money for which they have to be responsible for, and then increasing the time that money needs to last, right? So, through high school, or even, middle school and elementary school, here's this much money and it needs to last you today. Here's this much money and it needs to last you this week.
Mm-hmm.
Here's this much money and it needs to last you this month. You're teaching them the choices. You're teaching them how to make choices, how to choose. And you're increasing the time period, because that's what, when we get out on our own, they're like, here's a paycheck.
Yep. Make it work.
Here are all the things you have to pay out of that. So even being transparent and opening up at age appropriate levels, what does it look like to run your house?
Mm-hmm.
What are, like, okay, groceries are this. And even letting them, like, buy groceries. Here's this amount, buy these groceries.
Yeah.
So they're very simple ways to do it that don't have to be, like, super complicated. And I think that's the starting point on all of it. And then as you get that part, then you go, and add in, okay, how do you save?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do this next piece? How do you do this next piece?
Yeah. And I just like to add just a little spot. If you're asking someone for advice, make sure they're not broke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ask somebody who you look up to where they are financially.
Mm-hmm. And know that just because it looks good on the outside
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean it looks good on the inside.
Yeah.
So look at somebody's life that you are close enough to that how they're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a wonderful place to leave it, because that's the thing. We could talk about money education for so long, because that's something that really needs to change clearly in Canada and the States, and I'm sure all over the world. And I think we should have that conversation on a different day, because we could go deep into that.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
I know that conversation was so impactful for me. A lot of it was hearing things that kind of brought up that, like, okay, not alone. Other people are going through this. This is something that's very common. And so I think it's so important that we start opening the conversations and also getting curious on where those blocks are. What is having a strain and a hold on your money? Is it family? Is it like your brain impacts? Is it trauma? And so I think it's so great that we had the opportunity to talk to Melissa. Our next speaker, Cyndi Olin, she'll be hopping on in about 5 minutes. And that's when we get to talk about, she is a love and relationship expert. So we really get to talk about getting limitless in that side of your life. So it's been pretty incredible. We've got to talk about hitting those big goals. We've got to talk about finance, and now we get to go into relationships. So we're really covering all the big areas. I want to let you know all of the speakers have come together to create a bundle to help you become limitless. And so each one has added a piece of the recipe to help you become a lot more limitless moving forward, no matter which area you want to dig deeper in. Sara has added the Achieve Your Bold Goals and Manage Your Life digital course. So if you really love the steps that she was giving and you think that they could make a real difference, this is going to take that to the next level. It's going to help you when setting those big goals the traditional way is not working out for you. She's going to find out what's getting in your way from achieving that and to actually create a plan moving forward. And then Melissa, if you want to dig into the money illumination blueprint, she has added, and both of these courses are like $200-300 usually. In the bundle, we are offering it today, and this is only for today, for $57. So once it hits midnight, it's jumping up to $97. So make sure you get this bundle today because it is so jam-packed. The money illumination blueprint, it really gives you clarity on what you want and more importantly, what you don't want. And it identifies and helps you understand your action stoppers. So the things that are kind of choking up on your cash. And then it helps you know what steps to move forward so powerfully. I know we talked about not having that money education. And I think this is, if you've been feeling like that's been a strain on you, I think this is a great place to start. You get that included in the $57 bundle. You'll also get a 30-minute one-on-one conversation with me where we actually get to talk to you personally and figure out what is blocking you and what is stopping you from getting your most limitless self and your most boundaries and hitting those big successes. I would love to hear in the chat what has been resonating with you the most. What has been your most aha moments? With the bundle, you will also be getting all of these conversations, lifetime access for life so that you can get all of the goods. And we haven't met her yet, but later on today, you'll get to hear from Kristin Dronchi, and she's going to be offering her Courage for Impact live workshop, which is going to be included in the bundle. And I'm going to be giving you even more details later. I'm just going to be putting the link in the bundle for you. Remember, that's only $57 today. By midnight, it will be going up. I see our next speakers getting ready. I just want to make sure you don't have your YouTube open. We've realized that causes a lot of, I think it's called reverberation. I'm not exactly sure if that's the exact right word, but if you happen to have it open, that is great. Then look, we're learning as we go, guys. We're doing so good. One thing I didn't mention earlier too, so we have the wonderful bundle where you can get 30 minutes one-on-one with me, lifetime access to this whole event. You get a free resource from each of the speakers, and each of the speakers were incredibly, incredibly generous. They were valued at over $200 to $300 each thing, which just blows my mind, and we'll get it for $57. But I also want to offer to everyone a free 15-minute virtual chat coffee with me, just in case you need someone to talk to you and get some feedback on where you want to go moving forward. And so we can get a little bit of a plan to make sure you're going in the right direction. So I'm going to add that link to the chat as well. And yeah, Sarah's peeked at the bundle, and it is so good, as she's saying in the chat. We are just about to let Cyndi in the room. I'm so excited for this chat, and I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to meet Cyndi so that she could be part of this amazing event. So Cyndi was a former high-end matchmaker, and she's coached and worked with hundreds of women and men to find their happily ever after. Cyndi has a thoughtful and methodical approach to utilizing embodiment and growth-oriented mindset to dating and relationship happiness. Her clients often quickly find themselves in a successful, long term, loving, and passionate relationship. Seeing the need that women have to develop a long term, loving connection, she has been instrumental in guiding people to break relationship patterns that have been keeping them from love, from meeting the right partner, so they can break through the emotional triggers and the inner saboteurs that have kept them stuck from developing communication skills that foster deeper and easier connections. Cyndi's zone of genius is understanding how to save relationships and marriages while creating a stronger long term connection. Relationships is so fundamental to human needs, and it affects everything we do. So that's why I'm so grateful that we get to have Cyndi Olin with us today. So thank you for being here, Cyndi.
Hello, I'm excited to be here with you today, Jeanine. I was a little thrown off on timing for a minute there. I was like, oh no, Mountain Pacific. Yeah, but we're good. I'm here. I'm so excited. I'm excited to speak to your watchers and listeners out there and, dive right in.
Oh, and the speakers have been incredible to this point, and I am amazed that all of the speakers have gotten the time conversion, because that is something that throws me off so hard every time. I am going to take a step back and let you take the floor.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be here with everyone today. Again, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be a part of this. And, I love the title of this show, Limitless. And, it's interesting how we can feel limited in our lives. And that's, as Jeanine introduced me as, I'm, a love and relationship expert. I can, teach dating in my sleep, as well as the intricacies of relationship development and sustainable growth and intimacy in relationships. And I don't know who's on here who's single or who's in a relationship, but this will definitely apply to you no matter what. And all of our relationship success, believe it or not, it comes from us. So if you're dating and you find yourself experiencing a lot of flaky people, ghosting, men coming back, orbiting, all of that, or you find yourself disconnected a lot in your partnership, the opposite of limitless, it all starts with us. So the good news is this can be flipped around right now. Excuse me. Let me get a sip of water. Feeling a little something in my throat. So anyway, with that said, knowing that our inner world actually does, and many of you have probably heard, our inner world does create our outer world. And that can, and a lot of times we tend to go on autopilot and don't actually see the cause and effect in our life. It's easy to feel like we just keep going and we keep feeling like we're running up against blocks, and maybe doing things that you felt worked in the past in any area of your life. Maybe it's not working today. And there's a reason for that, because there's a call within you to to something greater, a deeper awareness, an unhooking of unconscious blocks, limitations, beliefs, um, all of those, to then, step into that new hologram of you, the limitless you. And what does that look like? Well, it gets to look like however you desire it to look. And I speak with a lot of women that have anxiety in the area of love, and feel anxiety in their relationships because they want to get it right. And this anxiety usually starts from the time we're children. We oftentimes get accolades for, winning in the sport or getting good grades or doing these great things. And that, that carries over into our love lives. So I'm going to give you a few steps that you can easily do to shift and transform this area of your life so you're feeling richer, more connected, more present within it. And presence is actually the first step, is really being present to what are my thoughts? How am I feeling? What am I thinking about, a certain situation? Let's just say you get triggered. Your partner says he's going to show up at a certain time and doesn't. And, there's this, and we can easily go into, well, how do you handle that? And being not triggered, maybe in the moment, you would think, oh, it happens. He was in a meeting. But a lot of times we take this on as personal, as this person is breaching trust with me. I don't, and they don't care about me. And that can, and so how do you handle that in the conscious, in this conscious moment, rather than going into, why were you late? What happened? This was important to me, right? There's a process you can do to support you in the moment of triggers, which will help you to feel more present and conscious and confident even. So this event happens. There's a trigger. Feel where it's at in your body. Where is this at? Maybe it's in your heart. Maybe it's in your throat. Maybe it goes down into your solar plexus. Find out where that resides in your body. And then ask yourself, is this from my past, which most triggers are from our past? Or is this from my present right now? Has this happened before? Or is this just a new thing? And usually, if it's from your present, there is not a charge. So you're feeling where you feel it in your body. And then the next step is to go, what is the meaning I attach to this? What is the meaning I attach to that? Is this true? Is this really true? If I'm looking at it from a grounded perspective, and breathing is always helpful, is this true? And this can take 30 seconds, like just not very long once you become really good at this. What is it that I desire to feel instead? Well, I desire to feel loved, desired, that I'm valued, that I'm worthy, that my partner shows up for me, right? So feel the negative, right? Feel those feelings, find out where it's at in your body. Where does it come from? Is this true? And then what is it? What is it that I desire to feel instead? Okay, good. So now we get to the opening of it. Then you're in the present moment of, okay, I I know what transpired, right? Like I I know my partner is late, and when they show up, how do I desire to be? So this is the next step in creating deeper connection and a growth oriented type connection rather than going into the other side, which is fear, which is um, questioning, not, lack of trust, all in the lack, which doesn't actually exude confidence in our partners. So what happens is, and I have something to share right after this. So when he shows up, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're here. I know you knew how important this event is to me. So they're there. The vibration's higher because instantly you are happy to see him, right? So then, um, then the next step is when you have a moment and you're in the moment, oh gosh, I'm feeling curious. Like, is everything okay? Um, due to the lateness. If he doesn't say anything, he's like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what happened in this traffic jam. Oh, I'm so happy you're here. And I know you really meant to be here on time. And it means the world to me that you're desiring to be here with me, right? You are what you're doing here by staying in the positive and being in curiosity, um, and feeling curious, like I'm feeling curious, like what happened, um, and trusting. So when we're in resistance energy, we're in the this is happening to me. You did this to me. Life isn't going the way that I want it to, rather than being in flow. And men are attracted to the flow. They're like, oh, okay. And if you're saying to yourself, wow, I don't show up in flow very often, you get the opportunity to. Now it's like, oh, I know you meant to be here. And that's instilling confidence within your partner rather than being in the questioning, the doubting, the this, which is a lot of times, and it's not your fault. Society has, society, our parents, like all kinds of influence in our lives have actually taught us to doubt, question, not believe, not trust, depending on your experiences in some way, shape, or form. There is this, we're grown to have these, what I call a love wall up around us, which penetrates every area of your life, believe it or not. Um, this can be in the workplace, this can be in your business. It will happen no matter what if you don't open up to that curiosity. So once you do open up to being curious, being connective, being compassionate. And a lot of times, there's a lot of popular dating advice out there and love advice, and a lot of it's really great. And a lot of times it's focusing on the person that is looking for support. A lot of times women are always looking to problem solve and become better versions of themselves in relationships, which I love. And men are too. Men have definitely joined in on the party in that regard. And the thing is that when you respond with compassion and connection, and that doesn't mean making it okay, it just means that you're seeking to understand rather than being all about you and asking for your need in the exact way that you have seen it done on from a lover relationship coach, or getting it perfect. If they don't show up in that capacity, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. So this leads me to the next thing. So understanding that, just being present, being in compassion, and leading from your heart. And when we have a clear heart, we are able to be embodied, and we're able to actually trust our heart, trust ourselves. Our heart will actually lead us to love. Our heart will lead us to compassionate connection. But a lot of times we're stuck in our head. We reside in our head so much that that when there's this, when things aren't going our way, or something happens, a trigger happens, then it's what a lot of times, and I see women do this most of the time, is that we tend to stuff our feelings down. And we might know a lot of information. However, we're operating from this unconscious system that's been created in us from 0 to 7 years old. That's actually where we learn how we show up in relationships and how we choose relationships. So, and we tend to choose relationships that feel familiar, feel like, one of our parents. And if you're going, oh, wow, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be in a relationship with one of my parents, or with someone that was more similar to a caretaker. And that's not necessarily always a bad thing. It's we do that because we know or our unconscious mind thinks we know how to navigate it. But what if you want to do something different? So if you want to do something different, you get to do everything different, which means that learning to look at, well, what are my needs? What are my needs, wants, desires in relationship? And a lot of times, if you've felt a lot of anxiety in your life from a really young age, what I see often is we're not as connected to our needs, wants, and desires. And what we'll oftentimes try to do is change the other people around us. We think, oh, if we just change the guy, if we change our circumstances on the outside, and we focus a lot on the outside world to validate our inner world, which is actually lopsided, everything will be okay. And it is, to some extent, that's a natural human being behavior unless there's been a different blueprint that you've been operating from. So from this level of, so what do I do next? How do I create what I want and have your partner who has been operating the way they've been operating, which is not exactly the way you have been for a really long time. First of all, you get connected with your feelings and start checking in with yourself. How do I feel? How do I feel right now? Where is this feeling coming from? Is this how I desire to feel? And you can easily transmute that. Our words are our power. Our words are, I say this a lot to my clients, our words are your wands. Like, they literally create magic in your life, in your relationships. And when you're embodied in this, I teach my clients something around communication, love-based communication, and feminine communication, high vibrational communication, whatever you want to call it. And what it does, and a lot of times it doesn't come natural to most people. And a lot of women I see get in resistance because they'll say, oh, this isn't me. This isn't how I show up. But when they start actually trying and embodying the communication, there becomes a shift and an opening. It's like a deeper heart opening and a vulnerability that allows you to see someone different, because men literally start to transform in front of your eyes because of the compassionate, the love-based, and respect-based approach that is opening up inside of you, and it's being received by the man in front of you. Now, there are some men that won't respond to this or will be in, give a lot of pushback or not trust the communication. And that is because they tend to have toxic tendencies. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But at any rate, I could talk about this all day long, but specifically around when you're able to open up around vulnerable, heart-based communication, which starts with curiosity, which starts with feeling like, I'm feeling curious about, what happened, from a place of wonderment, not judging. There's a opening that happens. I'm feeling curious about what had this happen, or a lot of times, or I'm when I noticed you had shown up late, do you mind if I share a feeling? Most of the time they'll say sure. When I noticed you were late, I had this fear that I felt like, oh, maybe I'm not that important to him. And then I saw you, and all of those feelings melted away. I'm sure that's not, but that's bringing you closer. Wonderment, not judgment, right? And I can literally teach for the next hour around how this creates deeper connection in partnership, how it creates deeper connection in your dating life. You know, I'll wrap this up in a bow. I have, a handful of clients that take this on like it is their job, and literally their lives transform, their dating lives transform. They'll have, all of these high level men to choose from. And all of a sudden, they're in this place of, feeling and connecting, not from a place of rushing to grab a relationship that because they're feeling of lack, like, oh, all the good men are taken. Who hasn't heard that? A lot of people share it. Oh, where are all the good men? I have a treasure trove. I've got a key. I'm a love and relationship expert. I'll just open it and unlock that door. I'm joking. But we tend to feel those feelings. Yep. And I'm going to wrap this up and just let you know that, in the end, your value doesn't reflect anything that is changing on the outside. Your value is what's on your inner world and the things that don't change, which are your essence of who you are and the qualities that you've embodied ever since you were likely a baby. So that's it for now. I know I'm a talker, but if you have questions, happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Cyndi. Yeah, let's throw the questions in the chat. I mean, relationships is something that affects us every day, so I know we all have a lot of questions about it. When you were talking, I kept thinking, I'm like, man, you're a love and relationship expert and you're speaking about with other people and stuff, but all of the principles you talked about can really apply to how you talk to yourself, how you talk to work, any relationship you have. It's such a great way to like be present and like get out of that judgment and get curious. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, and it all starts with you. If you're feeling judgy and curious, judgy with yourself, then that's naturally going to be projected out into the world. So it's always good to process those feelings, those thoughts, those beliefs that creep in, and we all have them. We all have things that crop up, but just being, when you're in practice of being in that place and it becomes a way of life, things just start to open up, and you're able to and really committing to doing the inner work to clear out the heart space, so this becomes embodied. And doing regular maintenance on yourself and your heart work, it's imperative.
Mhm. Because if we're judging ourselves, we don't realize it, but energetically, we're opening ourselves up to giving others permission to judge you as well,
Mm.
because they can't treat you kinder than you treat yourself.
Right. I mean, you might feel like they do sometimes in the moment, but there's, when you're focusing, it's interesting energetically, when we have a hyper focus on something we don't care about within ourselves, with that, even at, outside of ourselves, we, energetically, everybody picks up on it. I call it little, it's like women that go out and they're dating, and they go out on dates and they think it's going great, and the man never calls them back, and I see it over and over again. And oftentimes it really has everything to do with this. I call it, and it's not pretty, guys, but I call it's like we have these inner gargoyles coming out from ourselves because they're they're and it's not who we truly are. And it
Mhm.
works as a repellent, and like and men will never like quite be able to pinpoint what it is, but
Mhm.
they'll feel it. And that's why, women will complain like, where are the high quality men?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you clear your heart in order to clarify true needs, wants, and desires? It's a good question. So it's inner work. Um, and I teach the inner work around your heart, which is really clearing things that, and I'll just explain it, from just a basic standpoint. It's clearing up the places, the things that you're holding on to in your heart, and you may not even realize that you're holding on to those things. And so clearing those things. I'm an NLP practitioner, so I utilize like a multi-pronged approach to support my clients in this. But it's doing these processes that I teach, and also connecting with your younger selves, your younger little girl, your younger teenager, the parts of you that might feel a little fragmented. And a good way to start with that too is looking at, well, where have I felt, if it's hard to connect with childhood, because sometimes for people it is, um, go do an inventory of your past relationship and really go, what was it that I needed and desired in this relationship that I didn't feel like I received?
Mhm.
And usually we tend to think too that our partner should just inherently know our needs, and they don't. And so when you start to realize, like, do that inventory, usually there's a common theme. There's like 3 or 4 things that come through. So then those are things that you go, aha, ding ding ding, these are my needs. And if you're dating or currently in a relationship, you can start to make requests from a love-based place. And that's learning love-based communication. I do a lot of teaching and mastery around communication, because if you can master this and master and own your own confidence around this, then things things tend to fall into place in this area. But that's a really good question. um, Start there, and diving into that inner work too.
Mhm. And I think that's a very big question. So if you're at the point where you're asking that question, that opens up so many things. So I'd love to invite you to hop on a call with Cyndi. I'm sure she'd be more than happy. Hop on a call with myself, hop on any of these speakers, whichever resonates with you guys. Reach out. We've put this together because we truly want you guys to feel limitless in every area of your life. And so Cyndi just covered a very huge one, love and relationships. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your passion, and thank you for sharing you, who you are.
Thank you so much for having me as a part. And absolutely, Rachel, um, I see you, I feel you in this area too with your question. And I am, you it as part of the bundle, you could definitely sign up for a complimentary call with me, and I'll know where you're coming from, and spend extra time on this area. It's super duper important. Relationships, I teach it, but I feel like it's the most important area of our lives. And we get to really create, and your word, Jeanine, limitless relationships and, a limitless life. And I just feel so grateful and blessed to have gotten to be a part of this event that you so generously put together. And I, literally made my day. So thank you guys for having me. And thank you, Jeanine, once again.
Thank you so much, Cyndi. I mean, there was a lot of amazing packed information in there. And I think that's been a wonderful theme with each of the speakers we have. They've really been bringing everything because they want you to feel limitless. They want you to hit those wins and they hit those goals. And I know our next speaker, Kristin Dronchi, is no exception. She is a wife, a mama. She's an ex-9-to-5er and a daughter of the king. She is a biblical brain-based mindset coach and a business strategist, and she helps struggling Christian women entrepreneurs in the beginning stages of their businesses stop duct taping it together. Through biblical and mindset strategies, Kristin helps you get the clarity you need on your calling and the next step to simplify the process using the power of one framework. Kristin believes that if you are a woman feeling called to this online space, you have a powerful message to share, and God has given you a mandate to do so. Stepping into that will allow you to advance your reach and authority in the online space and moving you into being the impactful Christian entrepreneur you were meant to be. We are so fortunate to have Kristin talking with us today about having the courage for impact. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You are welcome. Hi, can you hear me okay?
I hear you great. I think it's a great way to start when Sarah's saying goodbye to duct tape, because I think that is so true.
Yes. Can you all see me okay? My screen looks kind of blurry, so I'm gonna try to fix my camera a second here, but.
Oh, I think that helped a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but hey, you're not gonna see my face because I have a presentation.
Wonderful. Well, I will take us. Are you able to see where to share the screen and everything?
Let me see this a second. What this
You
looks
missed
like.
all of our lovely technology glitches in the beginning, trying to get it all figured out. We got it.
I was listening.
Oh, good.
So let me see. Is it going to allow me to turn my camera off, or will it just will it just show you my presentation?
I'm not positive. We're going to be learning on the go on this one.
Can you see Canva right now or no?
No.
Let me if not, I guess we can do it without, but
yeah, I know at the very bottom of the screen it says share screen.
Yep. It's allowing me to click that. Why isn't it letting me?
So maybe I'll hop my screen off so you have the full screen, and maybe that'll make a difference.
Okay. All right. It's still, can you guys see? Probably not, because I can't see it on there. Let's see. Why isn't it letting me? We don't want to share screen too. Well, maybe I can share screen too. Maybe I can try to put it on my other screen.
Well, Sarah had mentioned if you use the plus button and just hit share source, that might work for you.
Okay, let me go back.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Yes.
Use this time to give a little smiley face or emoticon, show that how it's going for you out there. Get you moving, get you interacting.
Oh, presentation. Show your presentation to viewers. Okay. Upload. Ugh. Upload. Well, maybe it'll let me just show my PDF. We can do it that way.
Okay, perfect. I will let you take the reins.
So you just stay on a second. Let me know if you can see it. It's uploading. We
Okay.
apologize for this, everyone.
No.
This is a great platform, Restream. I've never used it before. So
Well, and this is my first time too. And my favorite feature so far is that I can put the questions on the screen.
yeah,
I
love it.
love that. And other speakers have been able to share it with their audience. So those who haven't been able to be in the room are able to see it still.
Awesome. Very good. Still says it's uploading. It's not very long. It's just that's a PDF. So it should.
Well, and even, I don't know if you need it for the whole thing, or even if you want to get started and then as the PDF comes up, that's okay too.
A lot of the questions are on the screen too.
Yeah, actually, one of the people watching, Sophie Riley, she was the one who told me about it. She's an automation guru, and so she has all the neat tricks and hacks about all the things. So yesterday I was like messaging her, what do we do? Like, share the details.
All right. Can you see this?
I cannot.
Remove source. Okay. Share screen. Presentation. Present. Let me turn my camera off a second and see if that'll help.
No, I think your camera would have to be on.
Well, I see my camera and then I see the presentation.
Oh, okay.
You are in the.
Here you go.
Can you help me? Okay.
There you go.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
you can turn on your camera as well so people can see you as you're doing your interview.
Yes, perfect. I will do that. All right. Welcome, everyone. So thankful to be here. Once again, we do apologize for the technical difficulties because, yeah, that's how we roll sometimes. But thank you. Thank you. My name is Kristin Dronchi. I am so thankful to be here. The speakers have been absolutely amazing. And I am so thrilled to be able to kind of pour into you a little bit about taking like impact and how you can have the courage to take that step of faith to make that impact that you were created to make, whatever season you are in. If it's for a business or for a relationship, whatever that is, I want you to have the courage to take that step of faith. And as you're going through the rest of the speakers, and if you bought the VIP so you can have full access to the speakers, I want you to be aware of kind of two destructive thoughts that may pop up as you're going through and listening to this. They're the thought of like, I already know this, or I already heard this, or, maybe this won't work for me, because whenever we feel that we already know something, our mind tends to disengage or shut down. I don't know if you have kids, you ladies have kids. I'm not going to pay attention to the chat right now because I'll be all over the place. But, think of a time when you ask your kids something, they say, I already know, mom. And then they're just walking away and they already stop listening, right? Because their brain shuts down. So the next time you hear yourself thinking or saying, I already know this, or I heard this, immediately catch yourself and kind of flip that script to, what can I learn from this? What's something new I can learn from this? Because you may hear of a new angle or concept that you may have never even heard before. Or you may become aware of something that you thought you already knew, but you're not actually taking action on that. Because knowing something is very different from actually doing something consistently and mastering it. My coach said one time when I'm like, I already know that. And he's like, really? Do you, Kristin? Because are your actions lining up with what you already know? Because think about this, we can read a book that teaches us how to swim, how to breathe, and all of the strokes, but until we actually get in the water and do the thing, swim, we really don't know how to swim, right? So knowing and having a knowledge is important, but that's not the power. Execution and taking action on the knowledge is power, and execution trumps knowledge every single day. So think of that as you're going through this, because you are actually created to do some pretty amazing things in this world. let me get back to my screen for you so I can advance. I'm not quite sure why it's not letting me advance now. Let's see. All right. Is it letting you advance?
Apparently it's making me advance. So just tell me next slide and I'll push it along.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So you were created to do some pretty amazing things. You have unlimited potential, right? And I want to see in the chat, do you believe you have unlimited potential? Because as human beings, we were created to do some pretty amazing things. And if you agree, drop an emoji in the comments. Now, we have great potential. I know that you know that, but do our actions and the results of those actions always reflect that amazing potential we have? Chances are most of the time they don't. And the results of our actions don't reflect and line up with the ultimate potential we have or the actions that we're taking. And you kind of already know why from listening to the other speakers today, but we're going to dig into that a little bit more today. So you have that courage to take that step of faith and make the impact you want to make. So why aren't our results that we have in our lives match the amazing potential that we are created to have? And more times than not, it's the limiting beliefs that we hold on to, stories that we tell ourselves of why we can't do something, why we can't be something. And it's all rooted in our subconscious beliefs. And if you want to go to the next slide, Jeanine, that would be perfect, because it all starts with our beliefs and our mindset. It looks like it's advancing just slowly. Is it going for you guys? Well, we'll just keep going. There we go. It looks like I can do it now. Okay. So it all comes down to your beliefs, because it's human nature to take massive action towards a goal. But we're only going to take that step of faith if we believe we're going to get the desired results we want, right? If we don't believe we're going to get the desired results, either consciously or subconsciously, we tend to self-sabotage our own efforts. And we're not going to go 100% in, and we're not going to take 100% action. So when we have a really small belief that we might be able to get the results that we want, or we have beliefs that don't serve us and we end up self-sabotaging, we end up taking little action towards a goal that we create. And that little action, because we really don't believe we can achieve it, or have sabotaging thoughts that are rooted in our subconscious, we're going to take little results and get little action. So those little results create even more uncertainty and lack of belief, because we tell ourselves, see, I knew that wouldn't work, or I didn't reach that goal again. How many of you have set the same goal month after month after month trying to achieve it, and you just aren't getting anywhere, and you're asking yourself, what's wrong with me, right? Or what's stopping me? What's keeping me stuck? And there's nothing wrong with you. It's you have thoughts and beliefs rooted in your subconscious that aren't serving you. And when they're not serving you, you have that little lack of belief. You take small action, hoping to get big results. And that's not what's going to happen. Because if you don't believe you have a ton of potential, and your thoughts aren't lining up with what you believe, you're not going to take those massive results and get that action that you want. So in order to solve a problem, to achieve a dream, reach a goal, change that level of belief, it starts with changing the belief first. Okay, let's see if I can move this slide forward. All right. And Tony Robbins says that beliefs have the power to create and the power to destroy. Human beings have amazing ability to take any experience in their lives and create a meaning that disempowers them, or one that literally can transform them and save their lives. And that's what I want to do for you in these next few minutes, is create beliefs that actually can transform and help you reach your goal. Because you have goals that you continue to create, or maybe you just don't reach them and you don't see the results that you want, that unlimited potential that you have, because your foot is on the brake. So what is keeping your foot on the brake from reaching your maximum potential and the potential that you have as human beings. And when I work with my clients, we start with their calling. And I like to say you have a calling in the form of a mandate, which we're not going to get into today. But whatever season of life you're in, you were created to do something in that season. You have goals, you have dreams, whether it's relationships or business or family or money goals, whatever that is. And if you're not reaching those goals and operating at your unlimited potential, we have to figure out why you aren't, so you can have that courage to create and make the impact that you want to make. Go to that next slide a second here. I'll have to remember to hit that button a little bit sooner. So why are we stuck? Why aren't you operating in what you want to operate? Whether it's a dream, a goal that you have, whatever that looks like for you. And really the reason why is because I like to call them mandate or calling blockers. We have mandate or calling blockers that are actually hindering us from reaching the goals that we want to reach. And I'm going to go through these really quickly. Definitely take a screenshot of it or whatever that is that you want to do. But we have calling blockers that come in these 4 areas: your inner critic, the world, fear, or just having a wrong focus. And your inner critic is the lies and stories that you tell yourselves, or maybe the enemy's whispering of why you can't, why you shouldn't, or who you couldn't become, who God created you to be, or the universe created you to be, whatever it is for you. For me, it's God. But that inner critic comes from, past traumas, the lies of others, inner dialogue, low confidence. And as you're going through these, think of what we all have, some that fall into different categories, but what stands out to you the most that you might have to work on. The next calling blocker or goal blocker that hinders you from, taking that courage and making that impact you want to create and reach that goal is the world. Because from an early age, the world tries to tell us what we should be and what we should do, whether it's our parents, our family members, and no fault of their own. They only knew what they knew at that time, right? But our teachers, institutions were indoctrinated to believe and think certain things. And I'll give you an example of mine. Mine's really of the world was that my parents told me I needed to go to school to get good grades and get a good job, and then go to college and get good grades and get a good job that pays the bills, right? So that was what I was told I needed to do from an early age and who I needed to be. And fast forward, I was at a 9-to-5 that was draining me because it didn't align with who God created me to be. So I was able to rewire that thought and really dig in through with personal development and hiring a coach and how to use the gifts and talents and abilities and life experiences that I have to extract and do something with that. The same thing with where you want to go with reaching whatever goal you have. It's either the inner critic or the world that could be holding you back and the things of that, or fear. And like I said, it could be all of these things all together, certain things. But fear is like our inner fears about what people will think, fear of judgment, fear of loss of something. Sometimes you don't think of that. Fear of losing money or fear of success, fear of failure, fear of judgment. Those are rooted in our subconscious things that hold us back, or having a wrong focus on certain things. I teach my clients, to have an inward focus, because what you want to create, the goals that you want to reach, that blueprint and map is already inside of you. You already have everything inside of you to be successful. But they're looking at all these things in the world of all these other successful entrepreneurs, and they're doing it this way. Maybe I should do it this way. There's distractions or shiny object syndrome. Or, like Jeanine mentioned, the quick fixes of duct taping your business together instead of hiring someone and locking arms with someone who can help get you there faster because they've already been where you want to go. So having that wrong focus instead of looking inward on how you can reach the goals, because the map and success is already inside of you. And sometimes you need to lock arms with someone that can show you the blind spots, because we're too close to ourselves to realize what's going on. We're focusing on everyone else and what everyone else is doing around us instead of really what's inside of us, and then looking upward to the one who created you. So these are really the 4 categories, and enter the categories. When I work with someone, we really dig into what in those categories are holding you back from creating and stepping into the impact and reaching the goals that you want to create. Because like I said in the beginning, it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's the subconscious beliefs and thoughts rooted in your subconscious, along with merged in with these 4 calling blockers that are keeping your foot on the brake so you can't move forward, or you continually set the same goal month after month, year after year. So how do we get our foot off the brake, right? How do we move forward so we can take that action that we want to take, like I mentioned in the beginning, because you have unlimited potential. So how do you move forward to rewire your brain to actually create the belief that lines up with your goal you want to create? Because if you're like you've heard from other speakers, your brain is wired to keep you safe. So it's going to resist new things. So when you're trying to reach a goal, which is probably something new, it's pushing you outside of your comfort zone, it's new. Your brain is wired to keep you safe. So it's going to elicit a response that you interpret as fear, or you interpret as overwhelm, or you interpret it as something scary, a stop. But that's just your brain doing what it's supposed to do because it's wired to keep you safe. So if you can understand that and rewire your brain and set beliefs, and we're going to show you how in a second here, but have your goals and a vision map and beliefs that align with your subconscious, so your brain actually can start seeing the results you want to create, then you're going to be able to take your foot off the brake and start moving forward. All right. These slides hopefully advance a little bit quicker for you, but I got to remember to hit the button a little bit sooner. So this is what I like to call, and I did not create this, a restoration and reframing formula. I'm going to quickly go through this, and you can, this is to uncover your truth. Like I said, uncover God's truth for my life and my client's life, but insert whatever word that for you that you want in there. But this is Dr. Shannon Irvine, is a well-known mindset strategist, and she actually created this restoration formula. And then my coach, who is rooted in, biblical truth, put her little step in there. So you can use that step, you can take it out, whatever you want to do. But this is the process that you can go through with really anything in your life, any goal, any thought that doesn't serve you, to help rewiring your brain so that you can create thoughts and beliefs that align with the goals and the truth that you want to achieve in your life. So the first thing is to recognize it. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these steps, but recognize the thought that doesn't serve you. Recognize that limiting belief. You have to slow down in order to be able to speed up. So slow down, become aware of the thoughts that aren't serving you, that don't align with where you want to go. Recognize it, and then record it. Write them down. Write them down, the exact words that you hear yourself saying it. Write them down in the exact words that you hear yourself thinking it, and then write your feelings and emotions down around that, because there's something happens when you can put that to paper. And then for those of you who are faith-filled women, repent. Ask the Lord for forgiveness for believing a lie, because you're believing something that doesn't align with who he created you to be. And then say, I give you the lie, give me the truth, please. The next step is to refute it. And basically that is a reframing technique where you think of someone that you love. Here's an example. Think of someone that you love the most, a daughter or a son, and maybe you're believing a lie that you're just not qualified. Who am I to be able to be teaching women how to renew their minds based on biblical truth and teaching them how to create an online business so that they can make impact and income. Who am I to be doing this? I don't have a business degree. So I'm not qualified. I'm not good enough. But imagine, your daughter or someone that you love the most coming to you and you telling her that. So my daughter, Allie, love her more than anything. Allie, you're just not qualified. You're not good enough. You're not going to be good enough to be a music teacher. You don't have what it takes. Could you imagine yourself telling the person that you love the most that lie, that thought, that belief that doesn't serve you, putting that on them, reframing it and putting that on them? Would you do that? No. And if you did, what would happen? They would probably give you every reason why and how to defend themselves, right? That's not true. This, and this. And you can do the same thing with yourself. Think of that person you love telling you that. Mom, you're just not good enough. You're not qualified. You don't have what it takes, blah, 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 blah. What would you be doing and saying and thinking? You'd be like, that's not true. I have this, and this. So you would be defending yourself. So refuting. Write down, defend yourself, everything that you would be saying to defend yourself on why you are qualified, why you do have what it takes. And then you want to renew your thoughts and line them up with thoughts that serve you. Where do you want to go? What belief do you want to have? This is the most important part. You need to take that belief that's not serving you, that thought, and then line it up and create a thought that serves you. So make sure you took a screenshot of this because this is a process that you can use with anything in your life. And then once you renew your mind, create a thought that serves you. I teach my clients to create God statements. So we create and go through and create God statements. What does scripture say about who your identity is related to this thought that doesn't serve you? And then you can also create, which is another way of saying it, a new belief or with I am statements. So this is an example of my belief I had. I needed to have a degree in order to be successful. So this is a process you can actually go through with yourself, is write down those old beliefs, those thoughts that aren't serving you, that aren't helping you reach that goal that you want to reach. And you need to create a thought and a belief that aligns with where you want to go. So here is an example of mine. Like I explained in the beginning, what my parents told me. I needed to go to college to be successful. I need to make money in order to be stable and safe and have a degree to be successful. But what God says, and my belief that flipped it, is with this business that I created, is I'm equipped with unique gifts, talents, and abilities. I can use these gifts God gave me for his glory and for the calling he has in my life. And money doesn't keep me safe. Money is not going to keep me stable. Money is not going to make me be successful. That lies in my identity and who I am in Christ. So basically what this example gave you is just take that old belief and create a powerful, positive I am statement from that and start using it to reframe and rewire your brain and creating a new identity. And then here is a very, very important part, because remember at the beginning, you can have all this knowledge, but you need to take action and you actually need to do something with it, because your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what you imagine or make up, true or false, real or fake. It only knows what you tell it in the form of a belief. So creating a vision map is super, super powerful. And a vision map basically is, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? It is creating a scenario in which the goal that you want to reach is already accomplished. It's past tense, it's done. And you want to be writing this out and use as much imagination and detail as possible and include all of your senses. What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What are you seeing? What's happened? What does this make possible for you now once you reach your goal? What does it make possible for your family or your clients? What are you not doing anymore that you were doing before? How are you spending, saving, thinking about money, thinking about time, that same thing? What do you have now, or what do you not have now because of the success in reaching this goal? And who did you need to be in order to reach this goal? And then create a vision map as already done in past tense. And then the most important part, like I said, taking action on this is going to help rewire your brain and grow new neural pathways. So use your phone or grab a free affirmation app that you can download and record your vision map into it. Keep it short, 5 minutes or less. Listen to it every day, every morning, and do it for at least 67 days. It takes 67 days to rewire a thought that doesn't serve you, which is called a neural pathway, and create a new neural pathway, create a new thought, a new belief that's going to align with where you want to go. Because in a sense, you're tricking your brain, you're tricking your subconscious, you're making it believe that it's already done. So it's going to start allowing you to show up and do the things you need to do in order to reach that goal, so you can show up in courage and confidence to make that impact that you want to make. So with that being said, I think, yep, I'm on my last slide. Is there any questions? I can look at the questions in the chat now. Any questions? Anything you want me to reiterate?
Kristin, thank you. That was amazing. I had no idea it took 67 days to actually get a new process.
Yeah. And then a lot of times I get asked, well, what happens if I stop? Or what happens if, it's only not going to work if you don't do the process. But if you're 3 weeks in and you don't do it for a day or two, you're going to need to start over.
Oh, no.
So make sure you're consistent. But it just kind of depends where you're at. But I would say if you're 3 weeks in and you miss a day or two, you're going to definitely want to start over.
So that's so important to set like a timer or something to make sure that you're not missing anything.
Yeah. A reminder, something like that. Yes. I can't see you, Jeanine, so sorry.
No worries. I'd love to I love this question. I just put it above. They're wondering, where can they find you after today? I just put all the links in the chat, but feel free to share.
Yeah, exactly. Where Jeanine put those links is where you can find me. Instagram, Facebook, by my name. I do have a podcast, Faith and Business Podcast as well.
I think that's a great question, because you guys are such great resources in this room, and we get so much information, and we don't realize how many questions we actually have until, like you said, how important it is to actually get out and doing it. Like, it's one thing to know all the things, but it's totally different once you put it into practice.
Yes.
Oh, I just have the links above. They said, where are those links? If you're having troubles finding it, send me a private message and I can get that to you after this call. Awesome.
Oh, wow. My camera just magically became blurry. So if it was blurry for you ladies, I apologize.
I don't find it was too bad on this end. So thank you. Yeah, it seems you did a really clear presentation when there's not a lot of questions, because you've answered all of the questions along the way.
No worries. I hope so. This is a small presentation of a larger one that I do. So if you're interested in the couple hour one, I think there's a link for those that purchase the VIP, the upgrade. You can definitely get involved in that as well.
Yeah. Kristin has contributed the Courage for Impact Live workshop in the bundle, which is incredible. Do you want to tell them a little about that? We have a few minutes.
Yeah, sure. Basically, it's just going to extend more on what we covered today. If you are a faith-filled, kingdom businesswoman in the world today who is at the beginning stages of creating, building, and launching your online business. And I say by God's design, because it is so important to be in alignment with your assignment. So if that is something that resonates with you, on really digging more into those calling blockers, and I go into a lot more about what your mandate is and things like that, then definitely grab that bundle so you can participate in that workshop. But yeah, we just go into a lot more detail on really what's holding you back and what's going to hold you back, because each step there's going to be another limiting belief or something else that pops up that doesn't serve you, that doesn't align with where you want to go.
Yeah, because personal growth does not have an end date. There is never an end date, and that's where they get you.
Yeah. Darn it.
I know you always want that magic fix, but there isn't. It takes work, it takes consistency to actually start creating those new paths and those new ways of moving forward.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
workshop that Kristin's putting on, it's usually $297, and she's added it to this bundle today, and the bundle's $57. So I will say definitely grab it. It's crazy valuable. It's only going to be $57 today. And when I say it's Kristin's, it's Cindy's, it's Sarah's, it's Melissa's, it's mine, it's all of our stuff for that amount.
Yeah, you had such amazing speakers, and it's so great to see how everything just flowed together with similar concepts, but on different aspects of the life. And yeah, this has been phenomenal. Great summit you put together.
Thank you. And I know nobody knows behind the scenes, but my speakers sure know. This only started coming together a week and a half ago, not even. And like, I could tell it was meant to come together. I had the idea, and then all of a sudden, these great speakers were like, yes, yes, yes. And so it just shows getting into that limitless mindset is really what helps you get where you are today.
Yes, definitely.
So I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me, Kristin, and sharing your passion, your knowledge with everybody who hopped on.
Yeah, you are so welcome. And I look forward to hearing from you in this next session. So have an amazing day, everyone. And I look forward to connecting with those that are looking to connect with me further. So thank you, Jeanine.
Thank you. So this is always the little bit more of a nerve-wracking part for me, because I usually get to put the spotlight on everybody else. And I kind of, I'm that behind the screen running everything. So it's always interesting when I get to be presenting to you guys. I'd love to get like a hi, how's it going? A little bit of emojis in the chat. Let's get it going. Let's have some fun. Today, I get to talk all about painting your own story. And so this is something that's so important to me, because for me personally, I wasn't even able to paint my own story for the longest time, or I wasn't able to dream or decide, what do I want my life to look like? Everything was kind of running on autopilot. And I'd love to hear in the chat if this resonates with you, because I know a lot of people I talk to feel the same. They've been running their life on autopilot, or they don't have time, or they don't have money, or they don't have the resources to start making the decisions on their own. And I think it was such a theme throughout today on really turning the lens inward to see how that can change, because it is possible. Not one of the speakers said, you can be limitless unless. There is no limit to who it can be, but you do have to be willing to do some work. And like all of them said, it's all about those blocks and those things that are coming up in our life that we have to address. And I think one of the very interesting ways to start doing that is listening to yourself. A lot of times we're saying things, but we're not actually hearing what we're saying or how we're saying it. And that's affecting everything we do. just a little example of something that I had done, it was probably a month or two ago now. Whenever I went to do something, I said, oh, I have to go do laundry. I have to go write the emails. Oh, I have to quickly go grab the kids. None of that was untrue. But once I started listening to myself, I was saying, I have to, I have to, I have to. And have to's feel like a heavy energy. They feel like a burden, and they feel like an obligation. And nobody wants to do obligations. If you love obligations, like, let me know. I'd love to be steered straight on that one. So what I started doing is getting aware of what I was saying. And so I started switching to I get to. I get to fold the laundry. I get to go write those emails. I get to go pick up the kids. And I get to has this feeling of excitement. Even when I say it and not trying to change my voice, it automatically changes. So I get to is like that exciting, like kid, like, ooh, getting to go to the candy shop kind of a feeling, rather than that I have to, which just automatically just, and it feels heavy. And so when we're talking about painting our life and painting our story, that's when we really get to choose what we're bringing into it. So there's a couple ways we get to paint our story. And we have to be really mindful how we do it, so our life ends up like a masterpiece instead of a finger painting. Because I'm sure there's different times in your life where you feel like your life is a finger painting and barely holding on, and there's that piece glued in here, just hanging off here, and this little thing here. I'm sure for those who have kids, they can think of a picture in their mind very, very easily of all their children's handcrafts. So one of the things we get to be very mindful of, the first thing is all the things that are affecting our paintings, and so affecting our masterpiece. And so the first person who gets to paint ourselves, paint our stories, paint our lives is us. We have a paintbrush and we get to create what it looks like, what we look like, how we're formed, how we show up in the world. We get to choose that, and every decision we make is a brushstroke. So that's a brushstroke creating your most authentic self. And that brushstroke is coming from the most real place. And that's the brushstroke you want to listen to. And if we get really quietly, we can listen to our heart rather than our ego, right? It's very important. I won't get into that today because that's a very big, deep talk and deep dive into energy, and I believe how it affects everything, but we're going to focus on what your role is. And so when we make decisions like, I'm shy, that is your paint stroke. That is a makeup of your personality. That is a makeup of your authentic self. I like tacos. I don't like the sound of loud chewing. It makes up your likes, your dislikes, your pet peeves, your passions, your true selves. And that's, you want to be in the driving seat of that. You want to be the artist and the main artist in your story. Now, oftentimes what we do without realizing it is we hand that paintbrush off, or we give a paintbrush to someone else at the same time. And so that's when we're letting other people have an opinion on what we believe and how our life turns out. And so when we hand over that brush, we have to be so cautious, because what ends up happening is we start taking on other people's beliefs. And the crazy thing is, other people's beliefs are only their beliefs because of their life experiences. So that does not mean that it is true. That does not mean what they are saying is factual. And it does not mean that it's true for you. Even if it's factual, it does not mean it's true for you. So we've all done it. We've handed paintbrushes out to everyone in our lives, and we've let them direct where we're going. And by doing that, we're not only stuck by our limits, but we're stuck by the limits of everybody we handed that paintbrush to. And so this analogy has really taken on a life of its own. I think that's hilarious. So what we need to do is start making the conscious choices of getting those brushes back. Sarah's there. She gets it. She is a step ahead. So we get to start taking those brushes back. And the only way we can do it is start getting very conscious of it. And so by doing that, we need to ask, like, if something comes into your life that, like, I don't like seafood. Say that's a simple one. I don't like seafood. Now the question is, have you ever tasted seafood? And a lot of times, like, this is just an example, a lot of times they're like, well, no. And then you ask, well, why don't you like seafood? And a lot of times it comes up, well, my mom didn't like seafood, and so I just know it's gross because she doesn't like it. And so that was a very simple example of how they've made a decision for you. So you didn't even get to experience that part in your life. And no judgment. I'm not a fan of seafood. Just an example. But that's where we get to start taking those paintbrushes back. And as the other speakers have had said previously, we need to do it in a non-judgmental way. Because even though those people are adding paint strokes to your masterpiece and forming the way that they think you should look, they're not doing it in a hateful way or anything like that. And so we need to look at it as it's from non-judgmental. And we need to take ownership. We handed out those brushes and we made the choice of letting them have a say in what our masterpiece turns out like. So I think that's very important and a very, very hard pill to swallow, because it's something I try to teach my children. If they get in trouble, the options are, okay, do you want this like punishment or bad thing or whatever, or do you want to choose to do the right thing? But the thing is, once they decide to fool around when they should have went to bed or whatever it may be, they get to know that they knew what could have happened, and this is what happens from their choices. So their choice was not taken away from them when they have to, whatever the punishment was for the deed. It wasn't taken away. They still made that choice. It just might not be one that we like or want to live with. And so we have to realize that when we're making these decisions here, even though it's something we don't want to live with, that was our choice too. Because by saying that, oh, this happened to me and everything like that, we're giving our power away. And so we need to get out of that victim mentality. And I just feel that, shake it off. Like, let's shake off that victim mentality and start being like, I made this choice. It was a sucky choice. I don't like how it's played out in my life. I don't like how I am living in this place. What am I going to do to change it? And it's very important to make that transition from this is so sucky to what choice am I making moving forward to change it? Because a lot of times it's so easy to get stuck in that mindset of this is sucky. This sucks. This is awful. But because we're looking at it from judgment and we're judging ourselves for getting us in this situation, it's very hard to get into the next stage of things where we can now say, okay, what are we doing here on out? And that's when we start getting to be limitless, when we start looking at that limitations and we start choosing otherwise. I just want to take a second because it feels so good in this space. Feels so good. All of a sudden, it's like a lid gets taken off and our eyes get open. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how many paintbrushes I had handed out. I didn't realize how much power I had given up and played the role of this is happening to me. It's a horrible place to live in. And by living in that space, you have lower energy. Of course you can't get things done. You're exhausted. You're a victim. Things are happening to you. So let's get out of that. Let's now get into the path of, okay, thank you for my paintbrush. Now I'm going to use this to create my masterpiece. I am going to do a little bit of editing. I'm going to get rid of stuff that is no longer adding to the beauty of what my life is becoming. And you get to make choices. And when you are handing out the paintbrushes, it's not always going to be good choices. It's not always going to be right choices. But we don't always know that until we start making them. And so that is where it's unbelievably important to just start making the step. Don't wait until you are ready to make the step. Don't wait until you have all the pieces in line, and don't wait until things are perfect, because that's going to be the biggest thing that holds you back. That's when things start coming up, such as procrastination, or such as working so hard and doing all the things. Multitasking and procrastination are the same thing. They are both doing the same thing in your life. They're holding you back and keeping you in a stage of slowing down and not getting the things done. So that's why we need to be super intentional and super intentional on what we're creating and if we're creating our life. So I'd love to hear in the chat, have you been actively creating your masterpiece? Or do you have maybe a few too many paintbrushes out there? Because I think it can be, it affects everybody. So it's just to get to that mindset. And this is what changes people from just like going through the motions to actually being driven, being that trailblazer, and start really making those choices and start creating that life. I love this. Sophie, masterpiece in progress. Oh, and multitasking and procrastinating. And you know what? You say you do both, and we all do in one stage or another, but now it's time to get aware of it, and getting aware of it without the judgment, right? Because once we put that judgment, we've all of a sudden made ourselves wrong. We've made ourselves feel bad about it. We've shamed ourselves about it. And shame is the lowest energy form and the lowest feeling you can make yourself feel. Would you shame your child? And this goes back to Kristin, what Kristin was saying earlier. Would you shame your child for feeling that way? Would you shame them for making a wrong choice? You wouldn't. Honestly, we need to cheer ourselves on for choosing to make choice or deciding to make choices and trying something different. It's not always going to work, but we got to put it out there. I am loving all the conversations. Yeah, that's the whole thing about painting your story. I strongly recommend getting quiet with yourself and deciding what you want your painting, what you want your masterpiece to look like. That'll help you with your direction, and that'll really help you moving forward. Sara talks about doing the big goals. It's good to have that big vision. And then you get to break down into small pieces, right? Little things, doable things. And that's each paint stroke. That's each stroke of your masterpiece. And you just do little ones. And each time you add to it, you're getting that much closer to creating the masterpiece you want. So I want to invite each of you to start taking those paintbrushes back. I want to open it up to a bit of a question and answer period. This has been a lot. This has been a lot of information, because it's not only the things that I'm saying, but it's the thoughts that you guys have going on in the background, like, oh, I was doing it here, or I didn't realize I was doing it here. I'd love to hear, what are some questions you have, or where have your paintbrushes been? Who have you let have control of your paintbrushes? I know I had talked in a previous conversation about being from a trades family. And that was a big one for me for a very long time. I was letting my parents, my family, through no intention, they did not directly say it or anything like that. I decided that that's how I let them paint my masterpiece. So things changed. I mean, I'm here today. Once I took that paintbrush back, I was able to actually make decisions from what was good for me and my authentic self. Oh, we have Sarah. How do you handle the people in our lives that want to paint our masterpieces? I love that question because it's really hard. Like, we don't know when they're going to decide to put opinions on you and try to mold your life. But that's the point where we get to decide. It's not going to stop people from giving their opinions because they're going to do it no matter what. And you can't control anything that they are saying. You can't stop that. You can't filter it. So wouldn't it be nice if we just like filtered some people and like, no, sorry, you don't get talking permission in my life. It's not how it happens. So what ends up happening is when that comment comes, you get to ask, is that true for me? If it's not true for you, you can send it back with love. Thank you. Thank you for your concern. I really appreciate it. You can even say, I'll think about it. If that's what that person needs to hear, you can even just give a courtesy, yeah, I'll think about it, and send it back. Because once they leave, the graffiti that they put on your masterpiece no longer affects them. That graffiti they put on your masterpiece, it's you who has to be out there with the soap, scrubbing it off for how long. And sometimes the damage can take such a long, long time. And we don't want to, I know sometimes people say things and you're like, oh my gosh, and you just want to like get upset or get mad or something like that. That's where sending it back with love, because that's not doing anything. It's not creating anything better in your masterpiece or in your life. And it's really important to send it back in love, because why not make it better? Why not leave your environment better than what it started? You never know. That might just be the domino effect the person needs to start taking control of their masterpiece. It might not. Some people are just out there to graffiti. That's them. That doesn't have to affect you. That doesn't have to be playing on your everyday psyche. You just don't have time for that. I am loving all the feedback. Today is one of those days where I decided to pick up the paintbrush and create something. This is my first ever time doing a live event. And so it was going to be a little messy. My paint strokes today were a little messy, but that's okay. But because that's creating the bigger thing. Next time it'll be a little smoother. Next time it's going to be a little bit more polished. And that's just what it looks like. But it's great when we can have a positive impact on others. It's incredible. Oh, Rachel, I give my paintbrushes to my children and partner daily. It's messy and chaotic. And they're making decisions from what they know. So do you want your children, depending on what their age is, my oldest is 5 years old, so I wouldn't let my child, my 5-year-old, make the decisions for me or for our household, right? And most of all, for how my life is created. If my life was created from a 5-year-old, I would have sparkle makeup all over my face like my 3-year-old did yesterday. And which that can be fun on your every once in a while, but you don't want that chaotic energy running your household or running your life. So you get to take that power back. And as you slowly start doing it, it starts reflecting in everything. We can't change what other people are doing or how they're acting. We can decide how we react to it. So I really love that comment. Let's see. We were raised with these ideas that others are allowed to speak into our lives instead of who God made you to be and how to go forward in that. This new thought process is fantastic. I totally agree. It's been for so long we needed to be silent and not heard. And now we're getting into such an age of really embracing who we truly are. Sophie has an entire leg of drawings today. Yeah, and I really love this comment. I cannot make decisions for my grown children. Therefore, no one should be allowed to make decisions for me. And they can be coming from the most place of love, but they can't know everything that's happening. They can't know your dreams, your aspirations, where you're going, your love languages, how you work with energy of those around you. They can't know that. So if they're making the decisions and being in the driver's seat, and that's like such a good point, we also need to look at where are we trying to make decisions for other people? Where are we trying to paint other people's masterpieces? We need to take ownership for that just as much as take ownership for those who we are letting paint on ours. I think that's such a good point. And that's where, like I said, that's where the idea of this event started. Is I was creating my group coaching program, Ignite, and I realized one of the biggest things that we need to tackle first before anything else is our limits, and getting these limits gone or being aware of them. And so we know where we are choosing to do this, right? And so I'd love to tell you a quick little bit about the group coaching program. It's starting this here in October, and it's going to be a very intimate small group because, like we realize, our masterpieces does not look the same as the person next to it. So we want to keep the groups intimate so we can specifically talk about your things and the things that affect you. I find it incredible when you get a room full of women that a lot of times it's similar themes. And then sometimes we just need to hone in and get a little deeper on a single topic for each person. And sometimes it's that one limit or that one block that you've been believing that once you tweak it, things start flowing and things start happening. And so that's what we do in the Ignite program. It's a 9-week program, and it's a way that you can start taking action and having things happen right now. Because how many times have you been trying to do the same thing over and over again, and you're still not getting the results? Like Kristin was saying, you can know everything, but until you're actually in the experience and doing things, sometimes things don't click, or sometimes you need another set of eyes for you. So if you would love to talk about joining the group coaching program, or if that feels right for you or calls to you, then I've just thrown in the chat a link so we can catch a virtual coffee and we can talk about what's going on in your life. This event it's really exceeded expectations. Each of the speakers were so generous and brought everything. And I think the most important thing about events like this is that they're actually giving you information that you can work with and move forward with right now, which each one of them 100% did that, which I think is the most important thing. And so to add to the resources, they've each added a resource to this. So if even one of these speakers really resonate, I would still recommend getting the bundle, because like we talked before, just for Kristin's live workshop, it's $297, and it's in the bundle for $57 with everything. So there's like, I'm not sure the exact number on it. It's like $1,500 worth of resources in this one place. Plus, you get a 30-minute one-on-one with me. So we get to start talking about creating that masterpiece with you, and where it's maybe turning into a bit of a finger painting rather than a masterpiece, and where you get to start taking control of that. I've added in the comments for the bundle, that'll be $57 only for today. Tonight, it goes up to $97 at midnight. And that includes Kristin's live workshop about having the courage for impact. That includes Sarah's Achieve Your Bold Goals and Manage Life digital course That includes Melissa's Money Illumination Blueprint, as well as you get all of these recordings and videos sent to your inbox as well, so you can have lifetime access. Because there's one thing of hearing everything, but then as you're moving forward and doing the steps, you watch it again and you realize, oh, this now relates to my life because I've now up-leveled in my life, which is incredible. That's the best thing. But you don't realize that until you go back and watch and realize, that didn't resonate with me then because that did not apply to me then. And yeah, you'll also get a 30-minute one-on-one with me. I would love to hear in the comments, what were your biggest takeaways today? What really resonated with you? I love hearing it because it helps me create a better event next time. It helps me celebrate the wins this time. And it helps me share with the speakers that I've worked with and that have shared so much through this entire process. I think it's so important as a daily practice to really focus on your gratitudes and getting into that sense of, wow, that's amazing. It's so incredible that 4 women last minute were willing to hop on and create this. So it's an amazing resource for you guys. I will be doing a replay period. So if you've missed part of it, or you maybe have friends or something like that, that you're like, man, this person needs to hear it. I'll be sending that to your email so that you can share it with everybody you know. Yes. Oh my gosh. Sarah's only touched things once. I thought that was incredible. I hadn't actually heard that, but it's amazing how many times things are keeping space in your brain that does not need to be there. Oh, Sarah, you are so welcome for doing this. I'm so grateful that you were the one to start things off. I think you set a beautiful tone for this entire event. Oh, yes, Melissa, ask myself questions about spending. Melissa's conversation with money actually made sense. And so many times when we talk about money, there's so many things that it feels like they're talking in another language. I don't know if it's just me. I've gotten better and my dialect to money has gotten a little bit better, but it's only because I've asked so many questions to get to that point. But yeah, it's definitely a language you need to learn on its own. So, Kristin, how to recognize limited beliefs was incredible and so important. A lot of times we don't, that's one of the things that isn't talked about is our limiting beliefs. We talk about these are the steps to do it. And like even with working with coaches or programs or anything, we're given these steps to reach these big goals so fast. And then we don't hit it and it's frustrating. And like, okay, what's wrong? What's happening? Like they said, if I do this in 10 days, this would happen and it didn't happen. What's wrong with me? What's happening? And we make it such a thing like that, like what's wrong with me? And a lot of times it's those beliefs going on in the back of our head that's running the show. And so we get to become the author of our stories, the artist of our masterpiece. I would love to hop on a call, have a coffee with you guys, get talking to you in person. I've added the link in the chat. I think that's one of the best things when I can actually talk to people directly and help them in any way I possibly can. I think this is a beautiful end to what has been an incredible experience. I want to thank each of you for showing up, for being here, for taking the time to prioritize yourself so you can start creating the life that's truly limitless. I'd love to leave you to ponder the question, if your life was truly limitless, what would it look like? Send me a private message. I want to hear the answer to that. What would your life look like if it was truly, truly limitless? Thank you so much for joining me here today and all of the fellow speakers. Make sure you grab your bundle. It's unbelievable value. You are definitely going to want it. And happy Thanksgiving and happy Columbus Day. I'm glad I was able to talk to you guys before I got too stuffed with turkey and too tired. I'm so glad you enjoyed yourself. I think this is an event I'll definitely want to put together again because it's been so wonderful. Have a wonderful Monday.